The Dallas Mavericks stunned the Los Angeles Clippers for a second game in a row, get a 127-120 win in Los Angeles, and get a 2-0 series lead against the Los Angeles Clippers. This is the Gray Area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. And you can catch me on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers, 105.3 The Fan. The Dallas Mavericks, for a second game in a row, stun the Los Angeles Clippers and get 87 points from their big three. Luka Doncic with 39 points, Tim Hardaway Jr. with 28 of his own, and Kristaps Porzingis, who had 20 points, a playoff career high, 3 steals and 2 blocks. They score 87 of the 127 that the Mavericks needed to walk out of Los Angeles with a 2-0 series lead. The Dallas Mavericks now move to 29-0 this season when leading after the first quarter. Just an unreal statistic when you think about what this team has done in first quarters all season long. And they won the first quarter yet again. A team that got greedy and was satisfied with another win in Tinseltown against a confused, stunned, and an unknowing what happened to them Los Angeles Clippers team that tries to figure out what it can do to try and stop Luka Doncic. As I mentioned, 39.7 rebounds, 7 assists for the 22 precocious superstar as he helps lead this Mavericks team, especially in the third quarter where they held the Los Angeles Clippers to just 19 points to turn things around for them defensively, especially in that third quarter. Things got started early in the first quarter as the Clippers made a concerted effort to get the ball on the inside and try to punish the Mavericks in terms of paint points. You could tell from what Ty Lue had said, the head coach of the Clippers team throughout the week, that they were going to try to make things difficult on the inside for the Mavericks, and that they did. Kawhi Leonard came out absolutely scorching. He had 18 of his 41 points in the first quarter alone. But give credit to Maxi Kleber and Tim Hardaway Jr. Maxi Kleber and Tim Hardaway Jr. going up combined 9 of 10 from the field, 4-4 from the three-point line for 22 points between the two of them. Luka Doncic added another 9 points as the Mavericks shot over 62% from the field in the first quarter and over 56% from the three-point line to lead 35-33 after the first quarter. The Clippers were rewarded by their ability to get inside the paint by going to the free throw line 11 times in the first quarter alone, making 10 out of those 11 free throws. Much of that continued in the second quarter as the Clippers tried to get inside the paint and try to make things difficult in terms of scoring point paints against the Dallas Mavericks. One point of emphasis also coming into this game was the idea that Kawhi Leonard was going to be primarily on Luka Doncic. That wasn't necessarily the case. It was Paul George who was primarily on Luka Doncic in Game 2, and you could tell that Paul George was making a concerted effort to try and fight through and over the top and underneath screens to try and stay with Doncic. But Luka Doncic continued to exploit the Clippers all night long with respect to how he was handling his business, especially on the offensive end. Don't get me wrong, Kawhi Leonard continued to punish the Mavericks with mid-range floaters, getting into the lane with mid-range jump shots. He scored 12 points in the second quarter with the physical finishes that he had. But Luka Doncic was simply sensational. He had 14 second quarter points, going 5 of 6 from the field, 2 of 2 from the three-point line. Kristaps Porzingis was really good, going 3 of 4 for 6 points. The Mavericks did give up 40 points in the second quarter to the Los Angeles Clippers, but at the same time, they scored 36 of their own in a high-scoring first half where the Clippers led 73-71 at the half. I asked Luka Doncic after the game, though, what was the mentality coming into Game 2, especially to get things started with another strong first quarter to give you an opportunity to take a second game in Los Angeles? Here is what Luka Doncic had to say. Kevin Gray, 105 through the Fan. Luka, coming into this game, what was the mentality and mindset after getting Game 1 to come out aggressively in the first quarter to set the tone to try and get a 2-0 series lead the way that you guys did tonight?
The mentality was go out there, play aggressive, have fun, and that's it. That's how our mentality is.
So Luka Doncic saying, look, we had to remain aggressive, play with a lot of fun, and that was the mentality. And the fun that they had was especially on the offensive end because, again, in this game, defense was optional. until you got to the third quarter. In the first half, Kawhi Leonard was absolutely spectacular. He had 30 points on 10 of 14 from the field. He was 3 of 4 from downtown, where the Clippers shot 63% from the field and 46% from three alone in the first half. Paul George had 17 of his own on 7 of 13 shooting. Meanwhile, the 71 points that the Mavericks scored, they went 67% from the field and from the three-point line. Doncic had 23 points on 9 of 13 shooting and 3 of 5 from 3 in the first half. The Mavericks had 4 guys in double figures in the first half alone. And Tim Hardaway Jr. had 13 points on 5 of 7 from the field and 3 of 4 from downtown. As I mentioned, the Clippers killed the Mavericks on the free throw line, outscoring them by 10 in the first half. The Clippers also had 38 point paints in the first half, continuing that trend of trying to get on the inside and with the lack of paint resistance from the Mavericks. But things changed in the third quarter. Tim Hardaway Jr. Now, I mentioned the Mavericks were down 73-71 going into the third quarter. Tim Hardaway struck a nerve by hitting the opening three-pointer to give the Mavericks immediately the lead back. That opening salvo by Tim Hardaway Jr. led to what would be a 12-point third quarter for Tim Hardaway, which was massive for the Dallas Mavericks. Tim Hardaway Jr. and Luka Doncic combined for 24 of the 30 points that the Mavericks scored in the third quarter alone. Luka Doncic was 5 of 9 from the field for his 12 points. Meanwhile, Tim Hardaway Jr. went 3 of 5 from the field, 2 of 3 from the three-point line, and had 12 points of his own. The Mavericks went on an 11-2 run to go up 85-78 in the third quarter. The Clippers went cold at the end of the fourth quarter in the last 4 minutes and just shot 36% from the field in the third quarter, namely holding down your man Kawhi Leonard, who only had 4 points in the third quarter alone. As I mentioned, Doncic and Hardaway combined for 24 of the Mavs' 30 points in that crucial third quarter, where they held the Los Angeles Clippers to just 19 points in that third quarter. Luka Doncic hit a super amazing one-legged three-pointer against Kawhi Leonard that even got your man Dirk Nowitzki up out of his seat as he was in attendance for game number 2 against the Los Angeles Clippers. That gets us to the fourth quarter. The Mavericks withstood the run of the Los Angeles Clippers. Josh Richardson was absolutely terrific in the fourth quarter. He had 9 points, hit 4 huge free throws to help seal it. Your man Kristaps Porzingis even got into the act with a lucky three-pointer that went off the back iron and went down through the net. You could tell that the Clippers didn't know what hit them. The body language was bad. They were walking around sulking, but they tried to get it together by going on an 8-0 run to cut the lead to 5 when they had been down by 13 when the Mavericks were up 114-101. But Luka Doncic, the 22-year-old wonder boy, said, it's not going to be like that tonight. He hit back-to-back driving layups to push the lead back up for the Mavericks, and then a moving screen by Marcus Morris, which drew his 6th foul, and a turnover pretty much made things difficult for the Clippers to get back into the game. Porzingis hit on a cut dunk. Then Tim Hardaway Jr. hit the dagger 3 with 1:03 left to put him up 123-116. And that was pretty much all she wrote from there. I asked Tim Hardaway Jr. after the game about that scream that he let out that you could all the way be heard here in Dallas, about what it meant for him to hit that shot in that moment and what it means to come back to Dallas with a 2-0 series lead. Here's what Tim Hardaway Jr. had to say.
Kevin Gray, 105 through the Fan, Dallas, Texas. Tim, when you hit that 3 with 1:03 left in the game, you let out a scream that could probably be heard here in Dallas. Tell me about the emotion that was running through you when you hit that 3, knowing the moment in that particular game and what it meant for you guys.
It's something that you live for, man. It's easier, said and done when you're up a couple points, but when you're in that zone and you're in that mindset and you're playing against a team like that, those shots are very, very big and very key throughout the game. And just being able to get 2 on the road, it's great. But we know we still got more to do, more work to be done, and a little bit more cleanup on both ends of the floor.
So Tim Hardaway Jr. saying, look, it was the emotion of the moment. Obviously, it was a massive shot to put us up by 7 with 1:03 left. And now to get back to Dallas with a 2-0 series lead is huge, but the work isn't done. And the work isn't done. And you give credit to Kristaps Porzingis after what happened in game number 1, where he went 4 of 13 from the field, and what we found out pregame, where he had been fined 50 G's for attending a club where the NBA said that he would not be suspended or not have to face any kind of quarantine, dodging a bullet that could have potentially taken Kristaps Porzingis out for this series. He came back strong in this game. As I mentioned, for him, he had 20 points in this game, had a career high, 3 steals, 2 blocks as far as his playoff career high, and also went 8 of 12 from the field. Kristaps Porzingis moved without the basketball, made plays within the offense when he didn't have the ball in his hand, and made his teammates better by moving and cutting and screening and doing the little things offensively, and maybe even being a decoy. I asked Kristaps Porzingis, what was your mentality coming into this game, knowing that you had to be locked in on both ends of the floor? Here is what Kristaps Porzingis had to say.
How you doing, guys? Yeah, so I'm going to start off by saying that, what happened is a mistake on my part. I was honestly a little bit confused with the protocols and made a mistake and paid for it. And I'm glad, we were able to get the win tonight and I was able to play. So I'm looking forward to what's coming, but it was a mistake on my part.
Okay, thanks, Kristaps. Kevin?
Kevin Gray, 105 through the Fan, Dallas, Texas. Kristaps, a postseason career high, 3 steals and 2 blocks. Can you talk about the mentality of staying locked in on both ends of the floor tonight and what the mentality was coming into tonight's game to get another game in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I thought about the last game a lot and kind of went back a little bit to the fundamentals of how I can affect the game. And also realized that, by me being out there, I'm like a decoy for other guys, for Tim, for Luka, for everybody. Kawhi's guarding me. So, on the offensive end, I realized that's, I can solely do that if that opens up shots for my teammates and takes Kawhi off of Luka, for example. And that's good for us. At the end, that's good for us. No matter if I'm involved in every situation or I'm not. And then just, as I said, went back to the fundamentals a little bit on how I can affect the game, even if I'm not scoring and even if I'm not, shooting and things like that, which is, something that I love to do. And yeah, just worked hard and first half could have done things a little bit better. Second half, looked at the film. Halftime, we looked at the film, and I feel like second half, our energy on defense end was even better.
So Kristaps Porzingis saying, look, I had to be locked in on both ends. I had to do what I had to do to not only make my teammates better, but also be in an opportunity to make some plays happen without the ball in my hands. And that's exactly what he did. And that is going to be crucial. I talked about this previously and had to make mention of it again. Kristaps Porzingis, when he's locked in on both ends of the floor, moving without the basketball and being a defensive presence and anchor on the defensive end, that's what changes things for the Dallas Mavericks. And you give them credit for coming out with the mentality that they did in this game. They shot the absolute lights out, shooting nearly 59% from the field, nearly 53% from the three-point line. Meanwhile, again, holding the number 1 three-point shooting team in the Los Angeles Clippers to just 13 of 33 from the three-point line. Maxi Kleber was another hero in this game, as I mentioned, with a terrific first quarter that he had and the aggressiveness that he was looking to have offensively, but also setting the tone on the defensive end. I asked Maxi Kleber after the game what his mentality was coming into this game, knowing that he had gotten posterized in game 1 and what he was looking to do to try and ensure that he was providing all that he could for the Mavericks to help them get a 2-0 series lead. Here is what Maxi Kleber had to say.
Kevin Gray, 105 through the Fan. Maxi, in this game, in the first quarter, you came out extremely aggressive, 12 points, perfect 5 for 5 from the field. What was your mindset coming into this game after what happened in game 1 to be able to come out as aggressive as you did?
I think we all had the same mindset coming out and playing aggressive because we knew they were going to come at us, play more physical. The difference this time was that Zubac was on me. I had pick and pop opportunities, open threes, and could attack the basket. And obviously I used that. But overall, I think the mindset of the team in general was we want to attack. We want to be the aggressors, even though we know they're going to come out and try to play aggressive.
So Maxi Kleber saying, look, the mentality was to come in, to stay greedy, and to handle business, and that's exactly what they did. So for Maxi Kleber, a little bit of redemption for himself after what happened in game number 1 where you had Marcus Morris, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George staring at him after he got posterized by Kawhi Leonard on that transition dunk. A little bit of sweet revenge for your man, Maxi Kleber. So good on him for what he did. The Mavericks still have to be better at the free throw line. They went 13 of 24 from the free throw line. Were not able to punish the Clippers, especially when they had the opportunities to do so. Meanwhile, the Clippers went 18 of 20 from the charity stripe. I asked Rick Carlisle after the game also. Rick, you said that this was going to be a business trip and you wanted to handle your business in that way. You came out with another strong first quarter. What was the mentality, Rick, going into game number 2 to allow you to set the tone early on in this game? Here's what Rick Carlisle had to say.
Kevin Gray, 105 through the Fan, Dallas, Texas. Rick, you said that this was a business trip coming to Los Angeles. What was the message and mentality coming into tonight's game to play with the sense of urgency, coming out and starting this first quarter strong the way that you did tonight?
Well, we're a young team, but we have some experience under our belts, from last year, and we have some other young veteran guys, Josh Richardson, Tim Hardaway Jr., that have played in playoff series before, so, these guys know what it's about. And look, frankly, we didn't have to get into a lot of cliche type stuff. Our guys are hungry to compete. They're hungry to play for each other. We've done that well for the first 2 games. And again, the challenge is always, when you win a game or 2 games in a playoff series, how do you measure up against the human nature curve? When a lot of teams will have letdowns, and one of our real challenges will be to keep up this level of intensity and this level of fight.
So Rick Carlisle saying, look, the experience of this team continues to grow. We came out with an aggressive mentality and mindset that we wanted to come out and play well, and that's exactly what they did. So give the Mavericks credit. I said it earlier on in this video. There comes a point in a series where you know who the better team is. The Mavericks are the better basketball team. The Clippers may have the quote-unquote better personnel, the bigger stars, and the bigger names. But what they don't have is the cohesiveness and togetherness of a Mavericks team that's led by a precocious 22-year-old superstar on his way to a second first-team All-NBA selection again. A guy in Tim Hardaway Jr. who's playing absolutely lights out now, especially with his clutch play and shooting the ball well from the three-point line. And you give credit to Kristaps Porzingis to putting behind him the mistake that he had with attending the club and getting fined $50,000 for coming out and playing the way that he did. This team is just better, and it's starting to show. And what they must do going into Game 3 as we look forward to Friday is to now put your foot on the throat of a Clippers team that has no idea that they had just got smacked in the mouth, not once but twice in their own building. What Game 3 provides for the Mavericks is an opportunity to show that Games 1 and 2 weren't a fluke, because Game 3 is a classic trap game. Can you, if you're the Mavericks, set the tone early, beat them to the punch, and play with the kind of desperation needed to go up 3 games to none? You can celebrate and salivate this win the way that you did in Game 2, but Game 3, the Clippers should provide a punch of desperation. It's going to be up to the Mavericks to punch back. But the Mavericks stun the Clippers again in Los Angeles, get a 127-121 win over the Los Angeles Clippers to take a 2-0 lead. How about those Mavericks? You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. It's been another episode of The Gray Area. We'll talk to you later. Peace.